The Ageless Traveler provides a wealth of information for you so that you never stop traveling. In this episode, travel with us to France for a culinary and art adventure. Discover over a dozen top restaurants, hidden gems, and ideas for grandparent travel. And please subscribe to our Travel Tuesday newsletter and join our Facebook salon. You'll find it all at agelesstraveler.com. Hello, hello, hello. This is Adrienne Berg, and this is the Ageless Traveler. And I am now doing something that I promised you for so long. We are talking with a culinary travel writer. You know, she's a novice. She's only been around for about 40 years doing this, writing books for spas. She has her own wonderful book, Forays in France. We'll speak about her favorite places to eat, her favorite places to see, and we'll even go on an art safari. Yes, the museums of France. So for those of you who are Francophiles, you're going to love it. For those of you who are not, you're going to become one. So thank you, Irvina, so much. We're here with Irvina Lew, and I'm so happy to see you today.
I'm delighted to meet you and delighted to be talking to women who are mature. It's an exciting market, and I'm very much happy to be a part of it.
Well, it's a wonderful and it's a growing market. And prior to the show, we had a little bit of a discussion because we are 10 years apart. And you are 86, and I need, at 76, role models, and you're one of them. So tell us a little bit about the issue of aging and travel, because you're so involved with that as well.
I really am. And you know what I have found recently? I travel now where I've been a widow for 17 years. My friend's also widowed. And so we rent an apartment in Cannes. We go to Paris together, but we go out to be glamorous. You know, we go out on a Saturday night late and we meet women. Maybe they're 40, maybe they're 60, but they are so, and I know it's genuine. And they all say the same thing. I want to be you when I grow up.
Yes.
Well, my role models were these women at spas who were 80, and some of them were hiking. Now, mind you, the women who were hiking well at 80 at the spas were also skiing at 30. You know, I was sedentary at 30. I wasn't skiing or any of that. But I always looked for role models, and now I notice that I am one. People will sit down on a bench in Cannes, and you'll see this gorgeous woman, and she'll say, "Oh, I want to be you." And you can. It's all a matter of good health and some spirit. You need a little spirit and a little stick-to-itiveness to deal with the challenges, and a little adventureness, you know, to get out there.
I have to say that on a personal level, I also did, my listeners know, I never picked up a ping pong paddle even until I was 50. And now I'm part of the Coachella Valley Hiking Club. So I just want everyone to know that even if they were sedentary, and I certainly was, it's never too late for that. It also is never too late to have a new role model. So you can be one and have one at the same time.
I accept it very much. And yes, I look at the conductors who are 90 plus and the artists who are doing things. And it's pretty exciting. It's not my first book, but it's pretty exciting. The Forays in France, a flavorful memoir, it's called, is going to come out. And I'm looking forward. I love the idea of promoting it again. And I don't care what somebody does new, whether they pick up a knitting needle or a tennis racket. It's exciting to do something special. Travel, there's nothing better, in my opinion.
Well, absolutely. So let's take a look at Forays in France. A couple of things. First of all, we're going to go into a deeper dive into the places that you love that you think we should visit. But it's a big world. You've traveled for many, many decades, right. But you selected France to write about specifically. So let's find out why France before we go into the more micro venues.
Well, I have been a world traveler since I retired from teaching, but I taught French. I taught French, Spanish. And so I was a Francophile well before I knew the meaning of the word. My 9th grade teacher inspired me to love France. I majored in French in college. I studied at the Sorbonne at 19, and I finally got back there this past winter at 86. But the reason I wrote about France was that my friend and I had rented an apartment in 2018 and had the joy of inviting each of my daughters, I have 3, for 1 week alone with me in the south of France. And then for 2020, we decided to rent again. Well, the week that COVID, the stay-at-home happened,
Yep.
March 15th, our apartment was canceled due to COVID. And I thought you know what it was like the first weeks of COVID. I thought I'd never travel again. They kept speaking about, quote unquote, the elderly and those
Right.
over 65. I was 80 and I was just daydreaming about France. And I started thinking about the Riviera. And then I remembered when I had been a kid and I was taking that first transatlantic ship I went to England before France and my summer in Paris. So that's what happened. It was organic during COVID. And I just went deeper and deeper into these crazy, I lost a car in Antibes and I lost my car keys somewhere else. And boys were pinching my butt when I was younger. I mean,
Maybe I'll edit that one out. Maybe I won't. Go ahead.
Between being pinched and being invisible, there are a lot of decades, but I've run the gamut. My daughter keeps saying from 18 to 80. Well, I was 19 and I'm not so far from 90. But I just started writing these anecdotes. My work, stopped. I wasn't traveling, of course, during COVID. It was a long time before I started traveling again. So that's how it happened that it became France. It is my favorite place. South of France is my favorite place. So there you go.
I've been amazed particularly when I speak with artists, how much good, now this is going to sound terrible, I know, came out of COVID.
Yeah.
If you could reinvent yourself, if you could create something, there are new forms of art that have occurred only because of COVID.
Right.
And in your case, it's your book. In my case, I moved across country and changed many things about my life. So you never know. It's how you take the adversity as well as what the adversity is. But let's talk about something that has no adversity: eating in Paris, eating outside of Paris, eating in France. So if you look into the life that you love to live, tell us some of these fancy places where I can go get dressed up and go and eat.
Well, can I just give you a couple in Paris? Because with a view of the Eiffel Tower or something, and then I'm going to the south of France. Or Champagne or the Loire. In Paris, you can eat in the Eiffel Tower, and it's a Michelin-starred restaurant. But I didn't want to spend $300 a person. I went to Alain Ducasse's Ombre, which is very close to the Eiffel Tower and views it. In January, I went to a brand new restaurant across the river. It's a little traditional restaurant called Margot. It views the Eiffel Tower. I sent my niece from LA there last week. She went with 7 people and they had a great time. So, and then there are little places in Paris. And what I look for is fixed price. Sometimes it's $285. Ombre, it was like $88. But fixed price is only good if you eat what's on the menu, otherwise a la carte. And I mean, I like the fancy places, but I also like the little traditional bistros. Like there's a little place, Truffe Folie, truffles,
right,
in the 7th, where you just have truffled pasta, and it's like nothing you've ever had before. I could go on and on where to eat in Paris. Most of them you can find at fouriesinfrance.com. Just look at published articles. Now, if you want to be fancy and glamorous, we rent at a very reasonable price, and my friend and I split the cost. We rent an apartment now in Cannes, but it's a block from, well, maybe a few blocks from the Carlton, the Majestic, JW Marriott, all these fancy hotels that I have written about in my travel writing life. And sometimes we eat there, and sometimes we just go there for a glamorous drink at the bar or at the Cafe Armani, but you just watch the fashion show. You sit on the sidewalk, and then you go for dinner in these little sidewalk cafes. And whether you're eating at Bobo or Bohm or something, everybody, it's just a crazy, gorgeous fashion show.
It truly is. I had the privilege of our show being nominated for an award in Cannes. Yeah, it was exciting. It was the silver, meaning older, economics award for wellness in aging, because we believe that when you travel, you actually live longer. And there has been studies by the NIA and NIH that travel actually helps you live longer, become more confident. You don't have this self-imposed helplessness, a lot of stuff.
Right. It's no choice.
So this thing took place where they have the award.
Where the film festival is.
And it was just wonderful to be there. And that was very recent. So where we ate was a place where they served you whole chicken. And it was a wonderful, tiny little bistro. That, I assure you, is going to be remembered and put on the show notes, along with all of the restaurants that you suggest. Do you have a question about travel? Or would you like to travel with us in 2026 to Japan? Well, in either case or both, please contact me. You can do that by text or voicemail at fatlist.com/ageless traveler. You'll find that on our website under podcasts and, of course, in the show notes. So now I'm going to ask you a different question. Grandmas. We have a lot of grandmas. So if you're going to take a little kid, a grandchild, say 7 to 15 or so, you took your 16-year-old, but little ones, where would you go?
Well, I'll tell you, the first place I would go is Angelina, which is on the Rue de Rivoli next to the Maurice Hotel, which is a fabulous hotel, and the Nazis occupied it during World War II, but that's another story. Next door to that place is a place called Angelina, where they serve hot chocolate with a bowl of whipped cream. Now, Angelina has long, long lines. There is a place in Le Marais, Carrette, is another place for hot chocolate. I actually have done stories for Wherever Family and for Global Traveler about bringing children, little kids, to France. Before I could afford it, I mean, my eldest granddaughter was, I think she was 19 when I took her to Paris and the Riviera. And my other one was 16 or 17, and I took her to Madrid and Barcelona. She went back to Barcelona for her college semester abroad. It's just such a fabulous experience. Yeah.
It is a beautiful experience, and it is a growing experience. People are looking for grandparent travel.
I was much, much more relaxed about museums and such with my grandchildren than I ever was with my own children. And it was like, if you do go to a museum, in and out in 45 minutes, leave them wanting more, not bored, which I give as suggestions in the book. And the other thing is, give the child, no matter what the age, if they want to just spend the day on the carousel or swimming or at the pool, you have to be able to give much more. And as a grandma, you're willing. I wish I had been that loose with my own children.
We all know. I will say on the museum, I volunteer over at our own museum in Palm Springs for the education of kids. And one of the things that we've done that really has worked, many museums have this, but if they don't, you could do it yourself. And that is something called art bingo. When you walk in the door, you get a pencil and you get a piece of paper that has different pieces of art that's in the museum. You have to find it. And you have to create bingo with it. And you get a little bit of a prize. Well, people come and tell us that their kids hate museums. They don't want to go to the museum. And they love this. The kids immediately take to it. They have a clipboard so that they're not writing on the walls or the floor. They run around the museum. They try to find this art. They check it off, and they come for their prize. And this has been going on for a few years at the Palm Springs Art Museum. And it has converted kids to love museums. So you could do it yourself by Googling a few pieces of art in any museum you go to. Make your own picture.
So I retired from teaching in 94. I started teaching in 1960. I had 30 kids in a class, and every season I brought 30 kids into the Metropolitan Museum, to MoMA. These kids had never been to New York City. Some of them came from the Bronx and Brooklyn, but they'd never been to where I took them. Took them to a French restaurant or a Spanish restaurant. Okay. Those days, we had to go to the library. We found the Picasso. We found the Monet. And the kids went with their
scavenger hunt.
A scavenger hunt. That's what they did. And I let them loose on Fifth Avenue because I didn't want to go in a group like that. It was just too much. I would let them loose 4 to 5 at a time, and they'd go on a scavenger hunt. And I'd see them, like they'd find other kids and they'd sort of cheat. Did you see this? Where was it? And they had to find out what room they were in. And they had the best time.
All right, we will come back and we'll talk a little bit more about Art Safari, but we'll also talk about restaurants outside of Paris. If you've been thinking about a cruise, I've definitely got you covered with Cruises It. Now, we have just become affiliated with them. And who are they? Well, Cruises It is the top agency for all the main cruise lines and some of the less known cruise lines as well. Cruises It has access to booking space that's been open years in advance, so you can get the best cabins. That's just number one. But they also make the prices lower. The cruise lines give Cruises It their own exclusive agency discounts. And if you're not from the cruise line, they have their own agency discounts that would apply as well. So you get both any discounts you would normally get on the cruise line, plus additional discounts that are given exclusively to Cruises It because they bring in so much business. On top of all those discount perks, when you book with them, you get the best rate guaranteed. And this is because Cruise Fare Watch system takes place. Now, what Cruises It does is it tracks the pricing until the final payment date. So you keep in mind that to get the best rate guaranteed, you have to use my site. We have affiliated with them specifically. I sat down, I met with them in Tucson, Arizona. I met with Marianne Weather. We're now become good friends. She gave me a direct line. Not only a link, which you can certainly use right away, but if you have questions, even a specific phone number. Cruises It offers this not just to anyone that is one of our followers, but if you have friends and family, you can bring them in too. So just take a look at the show notes and you will see our dedicated phone line and our dedicated link. Happy sailing! Here with Irvina Lew. She has not only a wonderful blog and a website for you to look at, forays-in-france.com, but also a great book coming out, Forays in France. Let's start with day trips. Where would you go in the vicinity, but outside of Paris?
Oh, well, Paris is very simple. It's a 46-minute high-speed train trip to Reims, Reims, where the cathedral is. And that cathedral was bombed every day during World War I. And that in there, it's like yesterday. Reims is the capital of Champagne country. So when you get to Reims, you can either stay in the city, you can rent a car and go on the Champagne Trail, or you could take a wine tour. So it's a 46-minute trip. I was in Beaune once, which is the wine capital of Burgundy, and people came. I was staying in Beaune for a week, but people came for a day trip from Paris. It's more like 2.5 hours. And they also joined a wine tour. So then you're on a little van with 6 or 7 people. They take you to wineries for tastings and stuff. If you're up to renting a car, that's really the best thing to do. I used to always rent a car in the south of France and just stopped a year or two ago. I found that either the cars were too big and the parking spaces were too small. Now I Uber, but I take train. Back to Paris, Versailles for a day and an overnight is perfect. Versailles is less than an hour by taxi. It's 30 minutes by train. My niece and I, my grandniece is 39 and she wanted to go to Paris. And I said, who are you going with? She said, I only want to go with you. So we went last November. And we took a trip to the Loire Valley, to the castles for 4 days. And we took a train from Paris and a train from Tours directly to the airport to come home. And you can do that for an overnight. It's so easy.
Let's go back now to Versailles. Where would you eat if you were there?
There are 2 hotels. First of all, the most luxurious hotel that you really have to be rich to spend $1,800 a night to sleep. Dinner is probably $300, $400. But I had breakfast there. It was worth it. Alain Ducasse does the restaurant. The costumes are 18th century. The guy who's painting the roof is in an 18th century costume. And that is the Cheval Blanc. So if you can do a breakfast, a tea, a dinner, if you're lucky at Cheval Blanc, you're very lucky indeed. The other place is at what is now the Waldorf Astoria Trianon Palace. I've stayed there 3 times. It used to be a very famous French chef. Now it's Gordon Ramsay.
Now we go back to anywhere that you have found, particularly in your memoirs or just in your memory, restaurants that you would like to mention without any particular part of France, but ones that you think we ought to know about that perhaps aren't so well known.
I think if I could go back to Hotel du Palais, which was Napoleon's wife Eugenie's palace, and eat there. It's in Biarritz. And that whole part of France I haven't been to in a couple of years. It's Biarritz and Saint-Jean-de-Luz, over in the curve of where you go to the museum in Bilbao in Spain. It's right on the Atlantic. It's that
Guggenheim
corner.
Great Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao.
Yeah. So from Bordeaux down, I love Côte d'Or, which is a spa right outside of Bordeaux. Wonderful Michelin-star restaurant. It's the source. But I love Monte Carlo, the Hotel de Paris in Monte Carlo, and eating at Louis XV, which is 15 XV. It's an Alain Ducasse. It's his first 3-star restaurant. And now those are over the top special places.
Right. But we're looking for that. By now we deserve it. We may be going on our 50th or 60th anniversary. Well, so why not make that splurge, right?
Yeah.
Not now when.
If you want to splurge, I I was once lucky enough to go from Venice to London on the Orient Express. If you can do those things. But I don't have that kind of a wallet. So I do those things, and I may have to stay at a lesser hotel to be able to have that one 3-star meal in a week. You know what I mean? I go often, but I have to make compromises, and a lot of people do.
Yeah, let me tell you about compromises. We have a book out. It's free to everybody. It's called Luxury Travel for Less. And there are many, many websites, many ways of doing it, many hacks, many hints and tips. But the one that I have used all my life, ever since I went to Europe when I was 18 and I had no money, I went on Europe on $5 a day. I did exactly what you do. That is, I would skimp on something so that I could splurge on something else.
Exactly, right.
And I wanted to go stay in Switzerland in the Hotel Richemont. For 3 days, I had a 4-day adventure. For 3 days, I literally slept on the floor at somebody's home. Before the days of Airbnb, they would charge $20, basically to sleep on their floor in the middle of Geneva. And then I spent my $350, which today was like $2,000.
Right, that's right.
To stay for that one night at the Richemont and eat. And guess what? I'll never forget it. It's a wonderful memory.
I do that. I don't know that I ever slept on the floor.
I was 18 years old, so it's a different.
I was probably 50 something when I went to the Olympics in Barcelona and go try to get a hotel. I stayed in a woman's apartment. She had 3 bedrooms. I was the only one with a bedroom to myself. There were 2 guys in one of her bedrooms, 2 guys in another of her bedrooms, and she and her daughter slept on the couch. We were 7 people with 1 bathroom, but I wanted to go to see that basketball team at the Olympics. And oh my God, I saw the dream team.
Recently, I went to Andorra with my husband, and we went very posh. But in order to do that, you leave from Saragossa, Spain.
Right.
And I said, Stuart, you don't know this, but when I was 18, I stayed at a brothel here because that's what I could afford with my girlfriend. And it really was quite an experience. But it was $10. So that's why I'm going to take a little break. You'll hear about luxury travel for less, and you'll see that it's for the 60-plus traveler. Unfortunately, we're not going to brothels. We have to have a good mattress. So you'll see how you can do that. Don't you guys go anywhere. I've traveled to over 110 countries, and I'm still counting. And this can be a luxurious adventure, but it can also be a very expensive proposition. So I always try to get the best rates on hotels, and I follow these steps very carefully. First, I compare prices on aggregators like Trivago or Get the Best Rate Guarantee. Once I have gotten the best rate through these 2 sites, I check them out on things like Booking.com and Hotels.com, and see the dates I want, and I get the travel perks. But I do have one last hack. Before I press that button on a site like booking.com or hotels.com, I explore Virtuoso. They have added perks and rewards, and I want to see if they mean more to me than the reduced price. And then I make my decision. Now, if you have questions about Ageless Traveler trips and its discounts, please visit our fan page and record your questions. And of course, go ahead and look at the trips that we offer under featured trips. agelesstraveler.com. You'll always get the best deal. And now we're back, and here in our last segment with Irvina Lew, and she, of course, is the wonderful, vibrant 86-year-old world traveler. So many magazines that she's written for. She has so many contributions to books, but now she has her own, all because of COVID. She had the time to really think, and she's created forays-in-france.com for your pleasure to read all about the restaurants and many other things. And the new book, Forays in France, a flavorable memoir. Let's talk about museums in France. Are there particular ones that you love, that you visit over again?
I go back and back again to, I'm talking about the south of France. In Paris, I definitely always go to the Musée d'Orsay, yes, which was a former railroad station. I eat there, by the way. I eat there either in the cafe or up in the fancy place where I may not order the most big meal, but I may have a cheese platter or something, but it's very gracious. I also always go to see my Monet, Les Nymphéas, the water lilies, yes, in the L'Orangerie. Yeah. And lately I go to the Dior Museum and the gallery, the Yves Saint Laurent Museum, because I love these little museums in Paris. But the place where I think, especially should you be traveling with a grandchild, I always go to the Chagall Museum, which is fabulous, the Matisse Museum. If you're in the south of France, the reason there are a lot of beautiful places in the world with beach and mountains and sunshine and flowers and gorgeous food. But in and around Nice, you have the Chagall, the Matisse, the Renoir home, the Bonnard home, the Picasso Museum in Antibes, the Picasso Museum in Valerie. You have the Léger Museum. In Saint-Tropez, which is the most divine little village in the world, there is a tiny fisherman's chapel that was converted into a museum by some man with a brilliant idea, where you have all of these artists that I've mentioned, and you'll see Signac's painting of sailboats in front of a window looking at the view that he painted. Wow. So the reason that the south of France and that area around Nice entices me back every year is that reason, because you can go to this museum or that, which you would only find in New York or Paris, but you have that kind of level of art.
I would also say that those of you that are going on a cruise, get off in Le Havre. People will tell you, oh, it's an industrial city. It was all bombed out in World War II. They rebuilt it. It's ugly. They've got fantastic museums of the sea. They have transitional art museums. The second thing to tell you, you listen to us. You're listening to Irvina and me, and you're saying, well, these are fancy ladies doing fancy things. Believe me, we do this on a budget. We're very careful. And don't laugh. Maybe you'll even laugh. But I take the hop-on, hop-off bus.
I always do a hop-on.
Always do. Always. Every time you will talk to a veteran traveler, they will tell you they use the hop-on, hop-off bus. So in Nice, all of those museums you mentioned in Nice are stops on the hop-on, hop-off bus. So you don't have to be somebody who's been traveling all your life. You just get on that bus, and in 2 hours, you will get a real taste of what you could see, and then you can get off and go and see it.
I have done that in every city when I'm alone. And by the way, in Paris, I tell everybody to get on the hop-on, hop-off boat. It's called the Bateau Bus. Now, I always take a Bateau Mouche, a Bateau de Paris, a cruise on the Seine. One of my editors only has like 3 hours in Paris. I said, take an Uber she's going to eat at the Gare. This is a wonderful restaurant, Train Bleu, blue train. It's in the Gare du Nord. And she's coming across from London to Gare du Nord. And I said, you take an Uber to the river, you get on a bateau, a river cruise in 90 minutes. You see all of the sights in that short time. But I used to travel alone a lot. I still do. But whenever I would arrive at a city, I would get on a hop-on, hop-off bus. Now, I didn't get off at the stops, as you suggest. I stayed on the bus the whole way the first time to know where it was. Or if it was like at a museum or something, I'd get off once and then I'd take a taxi back. But that's how you get that. I can remember doing that in Barcelona. By the way, you asked me about a restaurant anywhere in the world.
Yes.
I just sent a neighbor to Can Roca, Canroca, outside of Barcelona. It's like one of the best places in the world. And she's a travel agent, and she said she never had a meal like that in her life.
We're hanging on every word here. Take a look at forays-in-france.com. Culinary adventures, I know, are top of your list, and this book will also be top of your list. Everybody, please remember that we have a Facebook salon. We have a free Tuesday, Travel Tuesday newsletter for you. We have free ebooks for you. And if you happen to be a caregiver, we've just published the very first Caregiver's Travel Guide so that you can go to these places with the people you love without fear and without confusion. So thank you so much for being with us today. This was just beautiful.
I am so pleased to have met you. And thank you.
And for everybody else, never stop traveling.